Hey, y'all, do you know what it's like to think you're just chilling in your own home, minding your business, and then some self-righteous wannabe dictator storms onto your property, acting like they own the place? That was me, Jake Harper, 6 months ago, sitting in my granddad's old cabin by Crystal Lake, sketching out blueprints for a client's house, when this nightmare named Linda Carver decided to make my life hell. Let me tell you, this wasn't just a bad day, it was the start of something straight out of a crime thriller, and I'm still shaking my head over it. Picture this. I'm at my desk, sunlight pouring through the big windows, the lake sparkling like it's trying to one-up the sky, and I'm in the zone, designing a cozy mountain retreat for a young couple. The coffee's brewing. The loons are calling out on the water. It's perfect, right? Then, out of nowhere, this blood-curdling screech cuts through the peace like a chainsaw. Get out now, or I'm calling the cops. I step outside, and there's Linda, phone in hand, shaking like she's auditioning for a drama queen Oscar, her face all twisted up like I'm some lowlife squatting on her land. This woman, while she's been terrorizing our little lakeside community for months, dialing 911 on folks for breathing too loud, but she didn't know that call was about to blow up in her face. Let me rewind a bit. I'm Jake, 42, an architect who lucked out when my granddad left me this cabin prime real estate, worth about $2 million, with a view of Crystal Lake that'll make you forget the world exists. I turned the main room into my office, where I could draft plans while the water lapped at the dock, soft and steady. It was my sanctuary, a piece of family history, you know? Granddad built his legacy here, designing homes for folks across the county, and I was proud to keep that going. Then Linda Carver rolled in like a storm cloud. She's 50, married to some big-shot investor named Paul Carver, who'd been looking rough lately, and she strutted around like she was the queen of Willow County. That day, she showed up with 3 goons in suits, stomping across my deck like they were raiding a drug den. I could hear their boots thumping, rattling my coffee mug, and Linda's out there, pointing at my cabin like she's already picking out new curtains. "Mr. Harper," she snaps, voice sharp enough to slice through the lake breeze. "You've got 10 minutes to pack up and get out." She's decked out in this fancy blazer, blonde hair sprayed stiff as a board, those gray eyes cold as the lake in January. Her goons stand there, arms crossed, looking like they just walked off the set of Goodfellas. I set my pencil down, take a breath, and step onto the deck, keeping my cool even though my heart's starting to race. "Afternoon, Linda," I say, nice and easy, hands out where they can see him. "Mind telling me what legal right you think you've got to kick me off my own property?" Inherited fair and square, all the paperwork filed with the county. The air smells like pine and lake water, but the tension's thick enough to choke on. Linda's face goes tomato red when I don't buckle, and she yanks this official-looking document from her designer bag, waving it like it's the Constitution. "This is a seizure order," she says, smirking like she's got me cornered. "Your property's in violation of HOA rules, and the county's authorized immediate confiscation." The paper's got a shiny seal, fancy letterhead, signatures galore, looks legit from a distance. But something's off, like the signatures are too perfect, like they were printed, not signed. I take it, scan it, and hand it back with a little grin. Interesting. I'll have my lawyer look it over, as is my right. Until then, I'm staying put. Oh man, her face goes from red to purple, like she's about to pop, and that's when she pulls out her phone and dials 911, voice dripping with fake panic. "Yes, I need police now. There's a dangerous man refusing to leave after a legal eviction notice. I fear for my safety." The irony? She's on my land with 3 guys who look like they bench press refrigerators for fun. 15 minutes later, sirens are wailing across the lake, and 2 squad cars roll up, lights flashing. Out steps Detective Rachel Morgan, tall, gray hair in a tight bun, eyes sharp enough to cut glass. Her badge says she's seen it all, and the way she glances at Linda like she's already tired of her nonsense tells me this ain't their first rodeo. She asks for the document, studies it, holds it up to the light, her face getting more skeptical by the second. "Looks official," she says finally, folding it up, but Mr. Harper gets to verify it legally before any action's taken. Linda's voice hits a new octave. "Verify it. It's got all the proper seals." Her goons shift, one of M's sweating bullets despite the cool air. Rachel doesn't blink, just exchanges a look with her partner, Officer Diaz, and says, "Mrs. Carver, Property disputes need due process. Mr. Harper's got rights. She hands me her card, says to call if things escalate, and there's something in her eyes that says she knows more than she's letting on. Linda and her crew slink back to their SUV, but not before she shoots me a look that could freeze the lake solid pure, calculated malice. That night, I'm on my deck, watching the sunset turn the water into a painting, but my mind's racing. This all started when I moved in 6 months ago. Granddad bought this place back in '89, when Crystal Lake was just a quiet stretch of water, and he built his life here, designing homes, living simple. When he passed, I took over, thinking I'd found peace after years in the city. Then Linda showed up, all smiles and apple pie, acting like the neighborhood's welcome wagon. "Such a lovely spot, Jake," she'd said, eyeing my cabin like it was a prize. "Ever think about selling? I know buyers who'd pay top dollar." I told her it wasn't about money. This place was family, history, home. Her smile twitched, but she played it off, talking about community rules and potlucks. Then the visits got weirder. She'd nitpick my mailbox color, my lawn height, claiming HOA violations, with fines I'd never heard of. I checked the county records. No HOA existed here, ever. When I called her out, her mask slipped, and she got icy. "You'll regret fighting the community, Mr. Harper," she said, like I was some punk stirring trouble. Meanwhile, I started noticing Paul, her husband, looking like death warmed over pale, shaky, a far cry from the guy who used to jog the lake path. When I asked about him, Linda's face did this weird thing, like she was hiding something behind her concern. "Oh, Paul's been struggling since our son Tyler's car accident," she said, voice syrupy. "The stress, you know, and those new meds make him so drowsy." That didn't sit right. I couldn't sleep, so I started digging. At the county records office, I found a trail of lakefront properties sold dirt cheap to Linda over the past few years. One stood out: the Millers, who had a gorgeous place down the road until they sold it and moved away. I tracked down Tom Miller at a nursing home, looking frail, eyes haunted. "You're the Harper kid, right?" he whispered, glancing around like someone might be listening. "Be careful. They said my wife, Sarah, died of a heart attack, but I know better." His hand shook as he told me how Linda kept pushing them to sell, bringing over food pies, casseroles. Sarah loved her sweets, and after eating Linda's brownies one night, she was gone by morning. "They called it natural," Tom said, tears welling. "But I think she was poisoned." My stomach churned. I hit the health department next and found out Linda used to be a nurse, but her license got yanked a decade ago for slipping patients unapproved drugs, some of whom died mysteriously. That's when I called Rachel Morgan. "Jake, I've been waiting for someone to connect these dots," she said, voice heavy. "I've been after Linda for 2 years, but her connections keep shutting me down." She told me about 4 suspicious deaths tied to people who wouldn't sell to Linda, and how Paul's sudden decline started after he found out Tyler wasn't his kid. Turns out, Tyler's dad is Senator Mark Grayson, Linda's secret lover for years. Paul caught on, and Linda started dosing him with something slow and nasty to clear the way for her and Tyler to cash in on his estate. Rachel had a plan: wire my cabin, get Linda to talk. I'd play concerned neighbor, ask about Paul, and let her dig her own grave. We set up cameras, mics, the works, and I called her, hands shaky but voice steady. "Linda, I'm worried about Paul. He looks rough. Anything I can do?" She bit, inviting me over to her fancy mansion. Walking up her stone path, I felt the recorder in my pocket like a ticking bomb, knowing Rachel was listening from a van nearby. Linda greeted me, all charm and expensive perfume, but her eyes were pure predator. "Let's chat before you see Paul," she said, leading me to a living room that felt like a museum, cold and staged. She leaned back in her armchair, sipping tea, and started talking about my cabin. "We could resolve this, Jake. Paul's medical bills are piling up. Selling your place could help us out." I played along. "Sorry to hear Paul's struggling. What's going on with him?" Her mask slipped, just for a second, before she launched into this rehearsed spiel about his fatigue, confusion, and new meds. Then she got cocky, talking about adding special sleep aids to his meals, courtesy of a shady pharmacist, Dr. Alan Voss. "He's brilliant with dosages," she said, proud as a peacock. "The stuff mimics natural declinino. One'll suspect a thing." My blood ran cold, but I kept her talking, and she laid it all bare. How she'd been dosing Paul for months, how she'd helped others move on, to get their land, how my cabin was next on her list for Tyler. I got out of there, barely starting my car with how bad my hands were shaking. Rachel had enough. Linda's confession was gold. By nightfall, she had warrants, a tactical team, the whole 9 yards. But Linda was a step ahead. Around midnight, engines roared into my driveway, headlights blinding. "Jake, I know what you're doing." Linda's voice cut through the dark, cold as steel. "You've got 60 seconds to come out, or we're coming in." I peeked out her with 2 goons, plus Voss holding some tech gadget, sweeping my place for bugs. "We found your little toys," she taunted. "You're done, Jake." My phone was jammed, no signal, but I remembered Rachel's backup team across the lake. I flicked my lights in the emergency code we'd set up, praying they'd see it. Linda's heels clicked closer, her voice dripping venom. "You should have sold when I asked nicely." Just as she reached my door, the night lit upward and blue flashing, sirens screaming. Rachel's voice boomed through a megaphone. "Linda Carver, you're surrounded. Drop any weapons. Hands up." Cops swarmed my yard, guns drawn, and Linda? She just smiled, cool as ice, raising her hands like she was humoring them. "Detective Morgan, you're making a mistake," she called out, name-dropping the senator. But Rachel was ready. "You're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy, and 4 counts of murder," she said, holding up a recorder. "We got every word you said to Jake, your whole plan, laid bare." 6 months later, I'm in a courtroom, watching Judge Clara Thornton sentence Linda to life without parole. Voss got 15 years, her goons 10 each. Paul pulled through, barely, and testified about learning Tyler was Grayson's kid after a blood test for Tyler's crash. "I loved him like my own," Paul choked out. But when I asked Linda, she just said I'd forced her hand. Tyler, gutted, testified too, saying he trusted his mom while she was killing his dad. The senator resigned, started connecting with Tyler, and the investigation dug up 8 more deaths tied to Linda's schemes across 3 states, always the same: charm, poison, profit. The lake feels lighter now, like the air's cleaner. I stayed, turned a spare room into a memorial for Sarah Miller and the others, a reminder of what's at stake. We got a real HOA now, with actual rules and votes, and Paul's out there, advocating for folks like him, rebuilding with Tyler. Sitting on my deck at sunset, I think about how close I came to being another name on Linda's list. Evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it's a neighbor with a smile and a pie. If you've got a story about a bully like Linda, drop it in the comments. What would you have done in my shoes? Hit that like button, subscribe, and let's keep shining a light on these battles, because out here, karma's got a way of finding the truth.